coming up on Mic'd Up.
The one thing I didn't know for 3 years after losing TJ was that I actually would feel better again. And I really wish someone would have told me, you can feel actually truly better all the way again, even though TJ's always going to be gone. I didn't know how you could do that, but I wanted someone to tell me that. So I'm here to tell you guys, if anyone's lost anyone that you love, you will and can feel better again, all the way better from the inside out. You got to do the work though and get support and therapy and all that jazz.
The word that's coming to me is peace. Is that right?
Yeah.
Welcome to Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mike DeChocho, and on my show, I interview entrepreneurs, award-winning authors, entertainers, business leaders, athletes, and other talented individuals who I personally invited to join the show to inspire you to be brave and bold in pursuit of your dreams. If you dig this show and are looking for more inspiring content from incredible people, click the subscribe button and you'll be notified of each episode release. Subscribing is free and it means the world to me that you've chosen my channel to tune into. You can give a gift of thanks and appreciation for providing this content to you. Simply visit patreon.com/mikedup, MIKEDUP. Any amount is greatly appreciated and totally unexpected. I welcome you to connect with me on my other social channels as well. All links are clickable in the description to make it even easier to connect. Thank you again for tuning in to Mic'd Up. Enjoy the show. Our guest today is on a mission to empower people through food, wine, and her experience finding happiness again after losing her son, TJ. She's a food personality on the series Somm School Insider, which appears on wineforfood.com and Roku globally. This week, she launched a second edition and hardcover version of her Amazon best-selling children's book, The Gift of the Ladybug, as well as her adorable 12-inch stuffed ladybug named Polka Dot. I love Polka Dot. Very cute. She is the leading expert in creating food bliss adventures to heal grief, and she's also been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, and USA Today. Welcome to the show, food adventurer, wine explorer, self-love advocate, sommelier, author, speaker, producer, creator, and host of Wine for Food, Carole Mac. Welcome to the show.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. I couldn't be more happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. You're welcome. And I just love, quick shout out to Dr. Jamil, mutual friend and coach of ours, for making this connection happen. I wanted to make sure I included everything in that bio. A lot of times I shorten them down, but there's so many cool different areas that you're kind of collectively making it yours and bringing it all together. And it's part of your personality and your character. And before interviewing everybody, I always do homework on my guests. And you and I have never met before. And sometimes that's unique. A lot of times the people I interview, I've seen them, or we know each other for a couple of years. So this is fun. This energy that people are seeing and feeling right now, it's real. It's a real thing.
I know. I'm so excited. And Dr. Jamil, our connection is just enough right there. You're my people.
Yeah, we were talking off camera how great people resonate and connect. And look, I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm great or this or that, but the things that we care about are bigger than us. We're on a mission collectively. Yourself, Dr. Jamil, and the people that I've interviewed on Mic'd Up, now over 115 episodes. And you're someone who, it sounds like when you saw what Mic'd Up was about, your eyes got big, because I could tell once you learned what the show is about, your energy is there. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. Yeah, you've done all these great things. You have this story, obviously, that I really want to talk about and cover with TJ. And we're going to center the conversation around that as well. And the great book that is now the second edition coming out. When people are watching and listening to this, the second edition came out days ago, 3 days ago. So this is exciting. Guys, you could connect with Carole Mac on social media and also carolemac.com. And it does have the E in there. So CAROLE Mac.com. And obviously her website, it's the number 4 food.com. We're going to get right into this. And as you guys may have caught in the intro, I'm not that fancy, and I struggle with the word sommelier, and I still can't even say it. And she's laughing because it's a tongue twister, and I'm sorry. I'm guessing most people you talk to that are not wine experts struggle with that. Am I alone or what?
You are so not alone. In fact, I myself couldn't get it right for an entire year of interviewing sommeliers, and I'm still not sure if it's exactly sommelier, I think.
You got it. That sounds so smooth.
It's
so smooth. And this is actually the first time that I've had a sommelier on Mic'd Up. So it's the first time I had to struggle over it, but it's exciting because, look, we've been doing the show now since November 2019, and there's so many different people from different walks of life. Right now, as we record, you're in New York City. I'm in Buffalo, New York. And so people from all over different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and we're coming together again to help and really just resonate with our audience. So if you're tuned in right now, why don't we do this? Let's get this episode uncorked, shall we? You ready for the ride here?
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Bring it. Bring it. Let's uncork.
I think my ancestors might disown me, though. They're like, dude, you're Italian. How do you not know about wine? And yeah.
It doesn't mean you don't love wine. I mean, the two things are separate.
I do enjoy it. I'll be honest, I'm not going to be fake on the show at all. And I'm not really a big wine drinker, although I enjoy it when I have it. It's just not like I seek it out, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But now when I go out, I do order it more often. So I think maybe it is growing on me a little bit. We'll see what's going on with that. Here's what I like to do to get us started. Let's talk about the first time, if you can. Like, if you can go back to, can you recollect having that interest in not only drinking wine, of course, studying it, and then becoming an expert in it, eventually launching Wine for Food? Can you share that story?
Sure. And, it even started sooner than wine. It started with food. So I, like you, love food, and sort of wine was a thing that came later once I understood how beautiful they meld together and each one makes the other better. So with food, I want to say I was like 8 years old and I had my friends over and we'd blindfold each other and play taste games. We'd give them ketchup or whatever, and you'd have to blindfold it and tell them what it is. And then I had little bowls and I'd pretend I had a food TV show. So I've always loved food, wanted to be in food television in some way. And then I moved to New York City about 8 years ago to follow that dream. And I worked for Golden Wine Imports that imports wine. And after 3 years of studying under another food personality, I was like, I want to be the face of this company and I want to have food and wine shows. Can I do it? And they were like, you can do it. And I figured, well, look, this is a wine import company. The more I was in the wine world, I understood it's just so incredible, the palate development and how much more it brings your whole food experience awake and alive. And so now I'm in as much love with wine as I am with food. And I figure, I did a show called Follow That Somm, following sommeliers. I need to know what I'm talking about. They would smell a wine and be like, oh, it's this, that, and it's a Bordeaux. And I was like, how do you know that? So I decided I've got to know what I'm doing if I'm going to interview these people. And plus, it's a passion now, and I want to develop my palate. So I went back to school and I decided, hey, at the same time, since I'm just someone who loves wine and now I want to become good at it, why don't people come with me and we can show you how easy and accessible wine can be? So I made a show called Somm School Insider.
That's awesome.
Where I was inside. Isn't that so fun?
Yeah.
The Sommelier Society of America, which is the oldest wine school in the country. And I did their real program in real time as 4 months with the real instructors. And we did 7 episodes, real short, awesome episodes. You can binge the whole thing on Roku in 40 minutes. And it takes you literally through the real Somm lessons. And then in a fun way, we play games, we do blindfolds. We do that blindfold thing I did when I was 8.
Yeah, there it is. You've brought it back. Hey, that's a separate lesson right there of encouragement to, you don't have to have it all figured out to get started. You can be 8 years old with a dream, which I didn't know that about you. And that makes me even happier that I have you on the show right now, because that's what this is about. It's about reminding people it doesn't matter if you're 7 years old, 17, 57, you can have that dream and that heart tug. And you can really get started at any time. And we have the resources to do it. And when you were 8, you didn't have the resources of doing a show via Riverside or YouTube or Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all these cool channels that we're on today, or Roku. You didn't have it. You had your imagination in your heart. And now you're doing it. So you never know when those dreams are going to come out of you in some way, shape, or form. I love that. But what I'd love to do quick, I want to get to your book and your story. And it's really something that we can spend more than another half hour on for sure. I know we're going to feel like we're running out of time because you have this incredible story and what you did with the hardships that you've overcome. But real quick, to keep it lighthearted for a moment longer here, people may be tuning in. They're searching for wines and sommeliers. But maybe they came to this video for that and they're like, okay, teach us a little bit about wine tasting. And I know they can go check out the series, and many people will, and I'll have it linked. But what are like maybe some of the handful of things? I know there's like the sugar content is one, right?
You got it. Yes.
Okay.
That was awesome.
That's all I know. I know one thing, sugar. It's not that impressive, but
It's very impressive.
what are some of the groups or things that you look for?
There's 4 main groups. Sugar is one of them. Alcohol, tannin. Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I've been to school. What's the other one? I'm totally blanking right now. Tannin, alcohol, sugar, but anyway, you can watch the series. This is so funny.
Yeah, if you guys know the answer to the 4th one, put it in the comments. I'd love to show the engagement on it. And even, Carole, you could do that too if you wanted to jump in on the comments. We can add that.
Oh, okay.
But that's part of the series too, where you cover each of those. Because I saw it on the website when I was peeking at it, that you break down all these different categories. And so when you get a glass of wine, whether it's red or white, you smell it first, you take that tiny sip, right? What are you processing in that moment?
It's acid. Okay, so I just had to say that. The other one's acid. It's so funny. It's been so long. COVID, I've like not really drank wine for 2 years, so it's weird.
Don't even worry about it. I could barely get the show started when we were off camera there for a second.
So what's so cool is like before I went to school, I would just smell the wine. It would be like, that's wine. Great. It smells like wine. After 4 months and I went to school and I learned these 4 components, I guess. And I learned how to decipher them through smell actually and taste both. I went from not being able to know what any of it is to being able to literally smell a wine and be able to say, oh, that's a Pinot Noir from California. And the way you do it is learning these acid, tannin, all of these sugar, alcohol. And the way you can tell them is how they feel in your mouth. So if you wanted to do like a really fun thing, if you want to say learn tannin versus acid, those are 2 of the 4. You could get a little lemon and squeeze it in wine and then taste it and feel it in your mouth. Your mouth will like salivate and you'll be puckering and you'll understand, oh, that's acid. And then acid could be like very little to a ton. And then you start to decipher it. And then if you put a tea bag in another glass of wine, 2 of them, let them like steep long, that's actually tannin. And then when you taste that, it's like your mouth is drying and it's really just such a different feeling. One is salivating forward, one is totally drying, and they're opposite feelings in your mouth. And then you already know 2 of the main 4 components in wine. And then once you learn what wines fall in each category, you're all of a sudden like, oh, that's high acid. That could be a Riesling, for instance, that kind of thing.
Even with the blindfold, your taste buds and smell are telling you Riesling because it's taking these 4 categories. I have to break things down really easy for myself, and I think it helps our audience to understand too. But so let's say there's 100% of what a wine could be made up of. There's different percentages. So maybe there's the tannin, you said, right? Could be like at 25%. And then sugar could be at like 40. So then there's going to be a smaller percentage of acid or something like that. And so based on that feel, your brain is grouping different wines that could fit. And maybe you're guessing in that realm. But even if you knew it, then you'd be able to kind of say, oh, this particular bottle of red from California from 2012 has a little bit extra tannin or something. All of a sudden, you're having that conversation with your other friends. And that's the kind of conversation you're having.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And that's awesome to know because whenever I saw someone do that, I'm going to be honest, not to be cynical, but I'm like, I think it's a bunch of bull crap. All right. They're just shaking that wine glass around. They smell it and then, oh, they got to make some comment. And it's like, what are they saying? Either it's good, it's not good. But now I understand they're putting these groups together, different percentages in their head and categorizing where this particular wine falls. And then obviously there's preference. Is there, I don't want to say right or wrong answer necessarily, but are there certain things that like a professional wine taste tester or someone who's really enjoying wine for years is going to like a selection of these opposed to someone who's like maybe getting into it might like something higher in sugar content? That's my guess. What would you say on that?
Yeah, the answer is not always, but you're right. More often than not, people start out more sweet. They start out with a sweeter palate and then they go towards dry and more full-bodied and like nuanced where you can really start to see all the different layers of the wine. So it starts probably more sweet and more simple and goes to more complex and drier.
Reminds me of coffee. When I started drinking coffee, and I admit I probably was like 8 years old because I'm Italian and it was always around, but my brother and I, it was basically a milk sugar drink. with like a little bit of coffee. And then eventually less milk, less sugar. Then it was just coffee and 1 scoop of sugar. And then it was half a teaspoon of sugar and then no sugar. And then now we enjoy the actual taste of the coffee.
That's exactly it. And the biggest thing is practice, practice, practice. You'll see, obviously, if you're not doing it every single day, I got trained in this. I studied it nonstop for a year. I made a series on it, and you can forget so easily. So it's really about taste memory. And that's half the fun of it, because just like you did with coffee, it's like you kind of learned to graduate in a way, like, or evolve your taste. And in the same way, you can do that with wine, which is really just so fun, and start to understand the nuances. It's a total blast. And it's all about practice, 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 and then categorizing those in your head, like you said. So you would know the difference between sugared up, creamed up coffee versus bitter. It's very different. And now you know how it feels and tastes different in your mouth. Same exact thing with wine.
Yeah, I love it. I'll definitely pick your brain on that from time to time. And maybe I'm going out to a special restaurant for something and I might say, hey, we're getting Italian. What do you recommend? Or, just kind of have some fun with it. And then over time, I can start to share some of the different wines that I'm enjoying and let you know. I think that'd be kind of cool for you to see.
I'm down for that.
My path change over time because your palate does change. Like the things that Isabel, my 6-year-old, soon to be 7-year-old daughter, likes today is different than what she's going to like over time. Now, she has a mature palate in some ways. Like she likes Mediterranean olives, which I don't know. Kids want like gummy bears, and she's like popping those Mediterranean Kalamata olives.
I want to eat with that girl.
And then I eat hummus, and she's like, gross, Dad. And I'm like, they kind of taste, they belong on the same dish, but you never know. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a turn. The reason I'm having you here is to help people out. You just did through one of your passions, which is wine. You have many of those, as I tease at the top of the show. But what I want to talk about is the exciting book that you created a second edition of. It's already an Amazon best-selling book, the first edition. And then you started this out as a children's book, and it quickly became a national movement, right, about how to live powerfully after a difficult diagnosis. And you had this happen with your son. This book has been embraced by hospitals, schools, therapists, children, and parents alike. Please share the story and the inspiration behind the book.
Okay, so the story is The Gift of the Ladybug. And so, I'm going to tell you how it started. So I had my son, TJ, 12 years ago, and he came out with perfect APGAR scores, which is a hospital score. And, we thought he was completely healthy. And around 4 months, he wasn't turning over and sitting up as much as what to expect when you're expecting books told me to do. And I thought, this doesn't feel right, but I'm a first-time mom. I have no idea. And so I ended up just going after it. Finally, my pediatrician calls me at 8:30 in the morning one day after we went to a visit. He's like, I've been thinking about it. I think your son might be having seizures. You need to pack a bag right now and go to the emergency room and plan to be admitted to the hospital. And it was like one day I had a child that I thought was healthy with maybe a little developmental delay, whatever. So we're admitted to the hospital for 6 days. And it was just devastating and terrifying. And then we got into the Cleveland Clinic. There was a specialist. It was like 2 months of like trying to figure out what this is. Didn't know. Finally went to the Cleveland Clinic. And within 20 minutes, after 2 exhaustive months of all this testing, so much testing, 20 minutes, the specialist looked at me and said, your son's not going to see his second birthday. And I just couldn't process that. I couldn't figure out how I could possibly survive. Like, how can I do this for my life? People that I love getting sick and dying is like, honestly, my biggest fear for my whole life. I was kind of like a little bit anxious as a kid for some reason. So I had this thing already I was terrified of. And in the biggest way possible with my only child, it happened. And I was on the way home from that car ride, and my family and former husband at the time's family were all in a room. And when the doctor told us, and I was going home that day from the Cleveland Clinic, and I had this flash in my head, and it made sense like a dream. When dreams like weird, but they make sense.
You're like following it along, but you knew you were awake, but there was just like this story coming to you.
Yeah. In an instant, it like placed divinely, I believe, just was placed in my head. And it was these cartoon horses just in a circle, just as my family were. I knew that they were my family. And then TJ was in the middle, and he was a ladybug. And I knew all of this in this flash. All the horses were sobbing because we just learned that our sweet TJ is going to live a short life. And the ladybug looks at the horse, me, he's in my hand, and he looks and he's like, well, Mom, why are you crying? I don't understand why you're crying. I'm a ladybug. You guys are horses. Like, I'm a ladybug and don't know how to be anything else. And it was that, and I heard him say those words, but I only know how to be a ladybug. And I could sense and feel by who TJ was that he was already at peace.
And he was 14 months when he passed, right?
14 months, yeah.
So, yeah, he wasn't really verbalizing anything, but you felt your son's spirit telling you this story through a character, and you knew very clearly what it meant.
I knew exactly what it meant in an instant.
And he's saying, I'm a ladybug. This is what I know how to do. And the other characters, interestingly enough, couldn't be any different than a ladybug. They're horses, which it's like, it's got that kind of comical diversity in there. Yeah.
Right? And so that's how I know it was so divinely inspired. And I just remember being like, oh, this is how I'm going to get through. Okay, he's perfect. He's perfect as he is. He's not supposed to be like we are. If I love him, I have to love his disease. And I just have to get through this. And this is how we're going to do it. This is how I'm going to find peace. TJ has taught me this through his eyes and demeanor. Now he and whomever have given me this divine thing. This is how we're doing it. And I got home and I wrote in an hour and a half, I wrote The Gift of the Ladybug. And there are cartoon horses with a ladybug. And it is this story. I wrote it in an hour and a half. And when I did the research, it was like, oh my gosh, horses, they live 40 years. Ladybugs, they live 1 year.
Oh,
and TJ
wow.
lived just over a year.
I didn't know that. I mean, about ladybugs, but I didn't know that about horses either. But I guess that's like human years, obviously. 40
I think that's right.
Years, yeah. That's wild. And the fact that it made so much sense to you, even though it was abstract. And the thing about writing it down and then taking an hour and a half, and it came together so quickly, and it's a beautiful best-selling book, and it's helping people get through their pain and suffering, and also the light at the end of the tunnel. I've heard some of my favorite artists, musicians, talk about writing their biggest songs, and it's not the 8 months in the studio song. Typically, that's the one that everybody loves. It's the heartbreak, falling in love, feeling it in the moment, picking up an acoustic, just sitting there in your apartment or in your house or on the beach or whatever, just picking it up, noodling, writing a song in 3 minutes, and that's your hit. And your hit came to you through divinity, I believe. Like you said, I do believe 100%. In it. TJ's legacy lives through his character in the story, and you better believe I'm getting a copy to share this story with Isabel. Her birthday's coming up, as I mentioned, so she's going to get a copy for her birthday.
Oh,
and she loves reading, and I know a lot of kids love reading, and I don't want to take this lightly and just move through it. Parents out there listening, I want you to remember books are much more than just stories for children. There's stories that allow us to, and I want to get on my soapbox, I'll let you vocalize this too and articulate it better than I probably can. But I know personally as a parent that stories are a great way for kids and parents to connect. Yeah, there's these silly horses and the ladybug, but it's the story that they're learning about through those characters that allow us as parents to now teach them a lesson that's really heavy, that's really maybe more for a 12-year-old, but you can teach it to a 6-year-old. Can you talk about how important books are for that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like books heal. And what they do is they break very complex things down into a way that's easy to understand. And that's what this book does, is it makes something very difficult as accepting a terminal illness and or death of a child or yourself, all the way to, hey, Johnny's just a little different than Susie. It's celebrating differences in a radical, accepting way. That's the beauty of books, and especially children's picture books, is that they break it all down so that you can actually get it in a memorable story that just is right there and you can come back to every time you need to heal. So for instance, like this book absolutely healed me in that moment, and it changed my entire paradigm. It changed my husband's paradigm, my entire family's paradigm, and the city of Columbus, how we looked at my situation no longer as sort of like this really big tragedy.
Like why me turned into this happened for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're so right. That's exactly it.
I could feel the words on your heart.
It's coming.
I saw it. Like the subtitles were coming out already before they were up. Of course, you never say, hey, man, I'm glad that happened. No, of course, you would have loved to have this amazing relationship with him. But you do now in a different way, in a way that only God could teach us and through these incredible stories that came to you, that were gifted to you. Basically, it's like you're the artist that needs to get it out. And I love what you said about how the stories are really designed to be at the level of the student. But I feel teachers and us as parents and you as the author of the story are also students in big ways. Because how many times did you ever do a webinar where you're hosting it or you're writing this book, but really the one who's learning the most and getting the most out of it is really you, right? It probably felt good to get the book out. I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, but how good does it feel when you see a kid and her family light up? I saw you do an interview, and I forget the girl that was sitting next to you, but her story, you made sure that...
Ivory or Katie, one of the two, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Ivory. You had Ivory sitting with you, but you're on this news station being interviewed, probably several thousands of people watching this live, and you're like, bringing it back to Ivory, because you're connecting how the story is inspiring more than only yourself. And that's what I think is great to write a story. But all the parents out there, maybe you're like, I'm not creative, I'm not going to write a story. Well, find one like this, like Carole's story. That's why they're written. I was going to say we, because I'm already thinking forward. I actually want to write a children's book.
Oh, yay!
And I'm going to do that. It's on my vision board. But yeah, like the reason I'm going to say we, because as a podcaster, that's why I do this. I put this content out there so people can find it and get help through the stories. And I think it's incredible that that's your why and your purpose behind it is about all the people you're helping. And TJ is a shining star. And he passed away, was it 2007?
I don't keep the dates in my head because I don't want to always be like, oh, he would be this age, but it's been around 12-ish years.
Yeah, we talked about that off camera too. Like you've been doing this 12 years, really promoting this and helping people out. And it's really incredible. Guys, remember, you can go to carolemac.com, CAROLE Mac.com. We have about 8 minutes left. We're way late to the break. What I'd love to do with this quick timeout is talk about Navigator Bookkeeping. They are Social Chameleon's bookkeeping services. I'm actually going to run both of these promos. We're going to talk about navigating bookkeeping and Social Chameleon back to back. We'll be back in 2 quick minutes with Carole Mac. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. All right, we are back with Carole Mac. A reminder that you guys can connect with her on social media as well. Those links are all clickable in the show notes, making it super easy for you guys to access. All right, Carole, back to you again. Let's wrap this up. You're incredible in many ways, and I mean that. I'm so excited that you're here. I wish we had another hour or two together to continue to talk about your story. And I just know you're here to help people of all ages going through grief, right? And I just want you to continue to share what you already started to share about the power of writing and what it means to be an author and also listen to the story. Can you share some of the stages or things that if somebody's going through this heartache or this loss, maybe it's very fresh, some of the things that either helped you through it, and if you were telling someone, right now directly, an audience member's listening and saying, Carole, can you help me? What would you say to them right now?
Sure. What came to me is the art of acceptance, which is kind of something that I sort of developed in my own way after knowing what works and what doesn't work. And I call it the art of acceptance. And it's basically A, allow, R, release, and T, trust, art. So basically, one of the hardest things for me was I was kind of raised like I was always in a good mood, super optimistic. So I was not comfortable with icky feelings and I was resisting them all. And in grief, you have the worst feelings, especially loss of a child. It gets ugly. And I was so resistant of my feelings. Once I learned that if I allow the gross, ugliest, scariest feelings, then they can move through you and out of you and you can heal from within. So that's the allowing. Just allow it. The uglier, the more I see you. It doesn't mean you're me. It's not defining me. You're not here forever. Just remind yourself you're a feeling, you're going to pass, and allow it. And then release it. So this is the other thing I learned. You got to get it out of your body. Get it out. I would scream into pillows. One of my friends lost her mother and she was like, you've got to get a punching bag. It was the best thing in the world. And I would just punch the crap out of this thing and name the thing at that specific moment that I was most angry about and just get it out. And then journal it out, run it out, talk it out with friends, get it out. So that's release. Like feel it, allow it, all the way feel it, and then release it. And over and over and over and over for all the different things. And then trust. And that is just trust yourself that you can do this. Trust yourself that you can handle whatever you're being faced. I never have thought I could live through my child having a terminal illness, dying with me, and then being a person that is loss of a child forever. But I had to trust that I could do it. Trust that whomever you believe, whatever you believe, the universe, God, is there to help as well. Like it's not just you. You have help. You have support, family, whatever. Trust that you can do it. Trust that you're not alone. And trust that you're going to feel better again. The one thing I didn't know for 3 years after losing TJ was that I actually would feel better again. And I really wish someone would have told me, you can feel actually truly better all the way again, even though TJ's always going to be gone. I didn't know how you could do that, but I wanted someone to tell me that. So I'm here to tell you guys, if anyone's lost anyone that you love, you will and can feel better again, all the way better from the inside out. You got to do the work though and get support and therapy and all that jazz.
The word that's coming to me is peace. Is that right?
Yeah.
You can have peace again in your heart instead of feeling like you got done dirty, right? Like, hey, what's up here? You can heal. You still have scar tissue. We physically have a cut. We physically have scar tissue afterwards. But eventually there could be a peace of knowing God had this divine plan and put this in my life, and I could only do the good from it. I mean, I could do bad from this too. I could spiral downward. I could be down in the dumps for a long time. I could treat people miserably. I'm not judging right now, by the way, guys. I'm just saying there's different ways to handle it, and it's not always easy, and you don't spring out of bed and say, I'm going to be the greatest version of myself today after you just had trauma or continue through trauma. Trauma isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous event. But, I'm, again, showcasing your story because through all the hardship, this story helped you. You wrote this kid's story. You're doing the second edition now and continues to help people. I think you're amazing. And I want you to summarize. I know we're running out of time with the last 2 to 3 minutes here. This is not a curveball question. I do want you to think about it. Take more than 3 minutes. Here's what I'd like to do. We're talking about you writing this story as an author, and it's making me think about you being the author and protagonist in your own life story as well. Imagine that you get to write the ending, right? God willing, and you live a long, prosperous life. You're looking back on it. You're reflecting back on your story. And now you get to define your legacy because you physically wrote it out. What would your legacy be? Or what is your legacy that you're looking to build?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's a couple components. With the gift of the ladybug work, I give a percentage to Make-A-Wish now. I've given to many nationwide Children's United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation, but right now for the second edition forward, I'm going to be giving to Make-A-Wish. And my lifetime goal is to give them $1 million in my lifetime. That would be the most amazing legacy in the world, because they make kids' dreams come true. They're not trying to change the reality. They're celebrating the child exactly where they are, which is what my book says.
Making the most of it, sure.
Yeah, and making dreams come true. So I love my legacy to be making people's dreams come true. Obviously, children with critical illness, their dreams come true through Make-A-Wish. And then also food bliss. So food is my life. I'm an entrepreneur in food. It's been my lifelong passion. And I'm just going to tell a real quick story. When I was 1 year out of losing TJ, I was still a mess, had gone to counseling and nothing was working, but I had committed to not letting this define me. And so nothing was working. I'm like, I have to do something drastic. I was taking a shower. I'm like, I have to do something drastic. I'm miserable. I have insomnia. I feel like every cell in my body is on fire. I'm miserable. What can I do to get through this? And I thought to myself, I'm going to do something with my passion, large and big, and something that would like make my life if I wasn't in this scenario. And I decided to do, and I called it a food bliss adventure. And I was like, I would go to Italy, because like nothing matters, money, nothing matters at this point when you lose your kid. I'm like, I would go to Italy. Don't know how, I don't have any money. At that point I was between stuff because we stayed home for TJ. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I would harvest olives. I would make cheese. I would make wine for 3 months. And my husband's like, I would do photography. I'm like, I want to be a food TV. Will you shoot my first series? He's like, absolutely. So we went for 3 months to Italy on a food bliss adventure. And what was great about it was we made a memory that we were building that did not involve our pain and where TJ wasn't. It wasn't like where he was supposed to be and wasn't. So planning it was exciting, and it could take me out of my pain at times. Then being there with the sensory of food and wine, every bite that was like mind-blowing, it would relieve me from my pain a little. And then I had a memory that wasn't my pain, and it wasn't all about my loss. And I got back and I was like, where I was miserable, I was probably here. And I was like, that worked. Food bliss works. Add joy, add passion back. So my life legacy is I want to do a dream show. So I've been doing food television called Food Bliss. I'm working on it now, where I make people's culinary dreams come true, and I give them their like amazing, mind-blowing food bliss adventure for the purpose of being present, finding joy, and having transformation. So just making people's dreams come true in every which way around food and around children is my legacy that I want to leave.
You're doing it. I love when I have someone on the show and they answer that question and I already see you doing it. It's not like you're expecting it to happen because you say it's going to happen. You're actually taking action on it, and you're doing a lot of the things that connect the dots into your greatness, your story, right? And I always end the show with be great and be grateful. And I'm grateful for you and this friendship that we started today. Cheers to that.
Cheers to you. I'm grateful for you, Mike.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing that story. I love the acronym ART. Again, it was allow, release, and trust. And I think you can do that in many aspects of life. When something happens that's out of our control, we allow it, understand, and get yourself to that place. You release away. And trust is a big one that a lot of people do. It's that you have to surrender. Now, we've talked about our faith a little bit. We teased the faith. And I'll just say, I'll end the episode with the number one thing before you can get help, I think, is you really do need to surrender. Because if we try to do it all ourselves, that's when we get in trouble.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it with that. CaroleMac.com. Remember, guys, Carole has the E in it. Social media is clickable. Her website's for wine. You have a ton of things you're doing with your shows, your YouTube channel. Is there any last things you'd like to share before heading out?
I would just say, we're all perfect exactly as we are, and whatever comes our way is coming for us, even if it's the hardest thing in the world to know at the time. But mostly just thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to your audience and to share with you and have a new friendship. I'm inspired by you and the work you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Jamil, for another great connection. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/mikedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/mikedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCiccio, MIKEDICIOCCIO. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.